When a black CEO's black card was refused, an incredible 4.5B deal was unexpectedly canceled. The room fell silent. Marcus Taylor stood poised at the head of a sleek, marble conference table, the air thick with anticipation. His heart raced as he slid his elegant black card across the surface. It's go time, he thought. This meeting could change everything, a life-altering $4.5 billion deal that could not only elevate his company, but offer hope to the community he loved. Yet, as the transaction hung in the balance, his dreams collided with harsh reality. Declined, read the flashing screen, and gasps echoed like a thunderclap. A wave of embarrassment crashed over him. For a moment, he felt small like that little boy in Chicago, watching his mother pour every ounce of her strength into lifting their family. The room, filled with potential allies, now felt like it was judging him by the color of his skin, not the merit of his accomplishments. But beneath that embarrassment simmered something deeper, a fierce resolve ignited by years of witnessing systemic barriers. He refused to let this define him. Marcus's mind raced back to his mother's endless work hours, to nights spent in the cramped apartment where dreams danced with despair. "You've got to stand up for what's right, Marcus," she said more times than he could count. "Your worth isn't measured by others." The words echoed in his mind, igniting a fire in his chest. This wasn't just about him. It was about breaking the mold for every kid in the neighborhood. The tension in the room was palpable. Questions about whether this deal would slide away over an embarrassing moment lingered like smoke. Whispers about meritocracy versus systemic bias flared up, but the media scrutiny would be relentless. As his team exchanged worried glances, he knew that the stakes were rising higher than anyone could imagine. With each heartbeat, the melody of "Yes, you can" fused with anxiety around him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue as he scanned the faces around the table. Anger surged through Marcus. They all had stakes in this deal. You were so quick to judge. The moment hung there, suspended in uncertainty and outrage. Memories of his mentor, a father figure who navigated him through dark times, surfaced. "Stand your ground, son. Dignity is your armor." How could he turn his back on that legacy? With fists clenched, he envisioned the change. He could ignite a movement that could challenge discrimination not just within the boardroom, but throughout society. Should he let a mere slip push him into submission? Or would he seize this moment as a catalyst for change? As Marcus stood at the precipice of this life-defining moment, the weight of 1,000 ancestors rested on his shoulders. With potential investors watching, the question hung heavy in the air. Could this single moment of rejection spark a fire for social justice and transformation? Not just for him, but for a nation yearning for genuine change? Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the room's expectation pressing down on him. He could almost hear the whispers of his community urging him to be the voice they all needed. In that frozen moment, he made a decision. He wouldn't allow the rejection of his card to shape the narrative. Instead, he would reshape it. "Let us talk about what just happened," he said, injecting fervor into his voice. This denial was more than a simple banking error. It reflects a deeper issue, an affliction that runs through this industry and society as a whole. For too long, barriers have existed because of biases that we must confront. His words hung in the air, met with a mixture of surprise and contemplation. Those seated at the table, previously focused on numbers and potential profit, now leaned in, caught off guard by his candidness. Marcus' heart beat louder in his chest, but as he glanced around, he could see some eyes light up with inspiration. "I know this is just one story, but I assure you, it resonates with so many more. It's a moment that encapsulates not just my experience, but the experiences of countless others who feel invisible or underestimated. Each word he spoke was a brick in a wall of change he felt compelled to build. He watched as confusion morphed into understanding. This deal was intended to help elevate lives, create new opportunities. But if we're operating under a flawed system that dismisses individuals based on what's in their wallet rather than their capabilities, are we genuinely doing good? Silence filled the room, and Marcus felt the collective frustration simmering, ready to boil over. The investors shuffled in their seats, recognizing a moment tethered to impact far beyond dollars and cents. Marcus pressed on, drawing on his own journey. Every sacrifice I made, every late night, it wasn't just for me. It was for the young men and women who are still searching for that break, for a chance to prove they belong. Let us not make this about the past or this one moment of embarrassment. Let us make it about what we can create together. The room shifted. He could sense the change, a subtle spark ignited by his fervent honesty. One investor cleared his throat, his brow furrowing in contemplation. "You're right, Marcus. We need to do better. This is an opportunity for all of us to reflect on how we do business." As the conversation deepened, Marcus felt a flicker of hope. People began to engage, share their perspectives, and challenge their preconceived notions. The meeting transformed from a potential disaster into a launching pad for transformation. Together, they began to brainstorm ways to elevate the deal, ensuring that it came with commitment not just to profit, but to community and equity. But amidst this budding dialogue, a text popped up on Marcus's phone. It was a news alert, and the headline made his stomach churn. CEO's credit card refusal raises questions on industry bias. Let us get ahead of this, he thought urgently. Fear bubbled beneath the surface, battling hope. Would this newfound momentum last, or would the backlash swallow it whole? With the chatter around him, he turned back to the group. We have to be proactive. Let us not only secure this deal, but also create policies that actively promote equity. This could have repercussions far beyond what we can see. The wheels of change were in motion. But as Marcus spoke, a voice in the back of his mind whispered in nagging doubt. What if their newfound resolve faltered before it could bear fruit? With determination brimming in his chest, he took another deep breath, ready to challenge the storm that loomed ahead. The real battle was just beginning. Could this meeting be the turning point, or would the underlying systems of power pull them back into silence? Together, they stood at a crossroads, poised on the edge of history. What would happen next? As the meeting continued, Marcus felt a palpable shift. The words spilling from him seemed to resonate deeply with the investors. With each point he made, he saw flickers of understanding spark in their eyes. Hesitant nods turned into more assertive gestures. Voices trailed off as people began to reflect, reconsider, and challenge their own beliefs. What steps can we take? A woman with curly hair asked, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. How can we ensure this doesn't happen again? What policies need to change? Marcus felt a wave of encouragement wash over him. This was what he had hoped for. This moment, born of outrage and vulnerability, had opened a door. Let us look at our hiring practices first, he suggested. We need to commit to a more diverse leadership. It starts at the top. Then, we should implement unbiased training for all employees. We need to educate people on these systemic issues. A man in a tailored suit spoke up, his tone heavier than before. But changing a culture? That's a massive undertaking. The skepticism in his voice was evident, yet a hint of curiosity lingered. Of course it's massive, Marcus shot back, passion fueling his words. Change doesn't come easy. If it did, we wouldn't be sitting here discussing this in the first place. There was a tremor of eagerness in his tone now, the urgency of the moment filling him with resolve. Inside, he felt the pressure of the alert still weighing heavily on him. How would the headlines affect their momentum? But watching the exchange before him, he pushed that thought away. This was about more than just him. It was about everyone who felt the sting of invisibility. I'll commit funds for training programs, said the same woman, her expression earnest. I can speak with my network. There are organizations out there ready to partner with us for this. The nod spread like wildfire around the table. Energy shifted as ideas flowed, building on one another. Lightning in a bottle, each suggestion buzzing with potential. But just as hope began to shimmer, there was a stall, a moment of silence when someone brought up the impending media storm. "We really need a statement ready to go," an investor noted, voice firm yet edged with concern. "This isn't gonna sit well. With everyone, we can't just give a blanket apology," Marcus interjected, tapping the table for emphasis. "If we apologize, it's an admission that we failed. We need to frame this right, show that we are committed to learning from this, from the very top down. What if we turn the narrative?" Someone else chirped, sparking renewed interest. "Instead of focusing on the mistake, let us elevate the change we want to implement. Make it public how we plan to do better." "Yes," Marcus agreed enthusiastically, feeling the tide shift in his favor. "Let us not just respond. Let us lead." But as the dialogue surged, his phone buzzed again, a raw reminder of reality. Another update. Pushing it aside, Marcus leaned further into the conversation. "Let us be bold. Let us be the example this industry needs," he urged, the fire in his gut taunting him to keep fighting. Yet, even in this whirlwind of initiative, doubts crept back in. Was this just the calm before another storm? Would a new headline unravel their progress or turn into a springboard for change? As ideas welding into a united vision, he couldn't shake the feeling that the true test was still ahead. The world outside the meeting room loomed larger than life, the stakes higher than ever. Would they manage to harness this momentum, or would the winds of change shift directions once again? The answers lay just beyond the horizon, and they needed to act before it was too late. The energy in the room felt electric, but it was laced with tension. Marcus looked around at the faces of the investors. Some were flushed with excitement, eager to embrace change, while others wore expressions of uncertainty, grappling with the implications of their decisions. He could sense fear simmering beneath the surface, fear of losing support, reputations, maybe even their positions. Just then, someone cleared their throat. "What about potential backlash from our biggest clients?" a woman asked, her brow furrowing. "They might not support these changes. Change is often met with resistance, and we need to prepare for that." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He had been so focused on the future, the possibilities that lay ahead. But she was right, it wasn't going to be easy. The old guard didn't take kindly to disruptive ideas. "We can't hide from what's coming," he replied, willing his voice to stay steady. "Our current clients will either grow with us or fall away. We need partners who believe in this mission." A ripple of murmurs coursed through the room, a collective digesting of his words. The trailblazing idea of a company reborn through confrontation ignited cautious excitement. But was it truly possible? That thought nagged at Marcus like a persistent itch. "Let's prioritize transparency," suggested another investor with a reserved demeanor. "If we reach out to our clients about our plans from the get-go, we might actually bring them along instead of alienating them." "Absolutely," Marcus agreed, his heart thumping. "We can share our vision, highlight our commitment to sincere change, and frame it in a way that shows it benefits them too. This isn't just about us. It's about a better industry. We all have a role to play." Suddenly, he became aware of the stakes, how monumental this moment was not just for his company, but for the industry at large. Would they dare to pave the way for something unseen, or would they let fear lead them into complacency? The images of untold potential and vast opportunities lingered in the air, awaiting their choice. He turned his gaze back to the group. "Every great journey begins with discomfort," he stated, a fierce determination swelling within him. "Let us take the risk to grow, to challenge those who would rather bury their heads in the sand. I don't want to look back in a few years and see us stuck in the same rut we're in now. We owe it to ourselves and those who come after us." The enthusiasm in the room began to swell once more. People nodded with conviction. Energy surged as they fed off each other's excitement and apprehension. Could they really transform the narrative, or were they just dreaming? Then, without warning, the door swung wide open. The room fell into a hush as the assistant walked in, her eyes wide. "Marcus, it's urgent." The news broke about the deal cancellation. It has started trending online. A sharp breath caught in his throat. The palpable shift in the atmosphere was undeniable. All that momentum, that sense of empowerment, they might swiftly dissipate in the wake of this new development. He met each of the investors' eyes, searching for answers, hoping to find strength amid uncertainty. We need to act fast, he realized, his heart racing. What we decide now will make all the difference. Let us harness this moment and shape it into something positive. As murmured discussions began to swirl, Marcus knew one thing for certain. They weren't just fighting against the storm. They were learning to steer the ship through it. Against all odds, through backlash or support, they had to hold steady, leading away from the chaos and toward a new horizon. The room buzzed with anticipation as they crafted statements and strategies, determined to redefine their path. But deep down, Marcus's heart raced with a fresh wave of doubt. What if the storm wasn't just outside? What if he was leading them into deeper trouble? That question hung in the air as he felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on his shoulders. Could they truly emerge stronger? Or would this be the beginning of their unraveling? The answers loomed, waiting just beyond the edge of hope. The tension in the room grew thicker, wrapping around Marcus like an unwanted shroud. He could feel every investor's gaze piercing through him, questioning, doubting, searching for reassurance that he could not fully provide. The air was heavy with a sense of impending chaos. Yet out of the corners of those worried expressions, he caught glimpses of determination peeking through, ready to show itself. This is not just a crisis, Marcus said, breaking the silence that threatened to suffocate him. This is our call to action. We have to respond swiftly and decisively. Our clients need to see that we're not just a business, but champions of change. But even as he spoke, Marcus felt the weight of reality pressing down on his chest. The cancellation of the deal had sent shockwaves through their plans, and now the whole industry was watching. They were trapped between innovation and tradition, progress and backlash. Would they choose to align themselves with a future worth fighting for, or double down on protecting old ways? A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, though tinged with hesitance. Some investors leaned in closer, intrigued, while others stepped back, retreating into the shadows of doubt. What's our next move? One of the younger investors finally asked, igniting a flicker of hope amid the unease. We need to craft a narrative, Marcus replied, feeling a growing sense of purpose. Let us address our clients, acknowledge the storm, and reassure them of our commitment to shared values. This is our opportunity to show them why this change is necessary. The team erupted into a flurry of dialogue, frantic hands moving over papers, tapping on laptops, energized by the challenge ahead. Ideas bounced around engaging social media strategies, direct communication with clients, outlining their vision in concise, transparent terms. Each suggestion built on the last, merging fears with newfound ambition. Yet beneath the surface, Marcus could feel that nagging voice of self-doubt creeping back in. What if the narrative didn't resonate? What if their loyal clients abandoned them for taking such drastic steps? Marcus, a voice called out, breaking his spiral of anxiety. It was Sarah, the investor who had originally raised concerns. Your vision can be powerful, but we must prepare for the worst. What if they push back harder than we expect? The question hung in the air, lingering densely like fog, and Marcus searched for words. Then we face it together. Transparency is our ally. Even if they push back, as long as we're honest about who we are and where we're going, we can stand firm. We need to show them we're not just asking for loyalty, we're offering something better. A ripple of determination swept back through the room as glimmers of hope turned into sparks, igniting passion in every investor's heart. Marcus could see the enthusiasm return, eyes lighting up, shoulders straightening. They were ready to take on the world, even if it meant wrestling with their heaviest doubts. But amidst the growing momentum, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of impending dread. He recognized that the very people they were trying to win over might not respond as he hoped. As the discussions finally wheeled to a close, Marcus could almost taste the adrenaline coursing through his veins. They began to outline a plan for communicating with clients, defining their renewed intent to lead with clarity and audacity. Just as they were about to wrap up, Marcus received a notification on his phone. Curiosity piqued. He glanced down and felt a chill run through him. A new article had just dropped. A high-profile client had publicly declared their disappointment with the company's recent direction. Taking a deep breath, he looked up, heart pounding. "It seems we have our first challenge," he declared, but the fire in his eyes sparked a newfound resolve in the others. "Are we ready to face the storm?" he asked, knowing their response would set the tone for everything that followed. The air was electric again, a blend of fear, hope, and unyielding determination. As the investors rallied around, a shared understanding settled in. They weren't just ready for the storm, they were prepared to be the change. But could their united front withstand the mounting pressure? As the clock ticked down, Marcus felt the questions hanging over them, sharp and urgent. Would they rise together or find themselves washed away in the rushing tide of backlash and uncertainty? The room buzzed like a hive, the earlier tension now laced with a sense of urgency. Marcus felt that thrill of adrenaline again, but this time it was accompanied by a heavier weight. Could they really turn the tide of public opinion? In that moment, he realized it was more than just a business challenge. It was a test of character. "Let us not wait for the storm to hit us," he said, feeling the eyes of his investors on him, a combination of skepticism and trust reflected in their glances. "We need to be proactive. Let us get in front of this." He could see them nodding, the flickers of bravery igniting their spirits anew. Sarah raised her hand again. "What about our messaging? We need to be crystal clear on why we made these changes." "The why is everything." Marcus met her gaze, feeling the fire in her words. He knew she was right. "Agreed. We need concise messaging that highlights our values: diversity, innovation, and integrity. Let us not ignore our past. Let us leverage it to build a better future." Ideas flowed as they started forming a strategic plan. They settled on a dual approach: a public statement addressing the concerns raised by their key client and an overarching campaign highlighting the benefits of their new direction. Marcus's heartbeat synced with the thrill in the room. This was it. They were stepping out into the light, ready to break the barriers that held them hostage. He saw that same determination mirrored in the faces around him. A team united by purpose. As the hours passed, fatigue threatened to creep in, but determination pushed them forward. Marcus called for a break, needing air to clear his head. Outside, the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. He took a moment to breathe, letting the weight of the day drift away like the clouds above. But as he turned back to re-enter the building, he caught sight of a crowd gathering outside the office. Reporters buzzed, their cameras trained on the entrance. The unfolding media storm hit him square in the chest. "What are they doing here?" he muttered under his breath, the worry creeping back as he re-entered the conference room. The growing murmurs of concern among his team brought him back to reality. "Seems like word got out," one investor said, glancing nervously at the screens lighting up with breaking news. Marcus's gut twisted. Would they be able to withstand the scrutiny? His voice steadied as he proclaimed, "We'll face them together. This is our chance to articulate our vision to the world." Suddenly, a notification buzzed on his phone, a video link from a prominent media outlet. His heart sank as he recognized the headline. CEO of company name faces backlash over new direction. It was already starting. Pressure surged through him, and just as he was about to address the team again, the room went silent. Sarah's eyes widened as she shouted out, he got an interview with our competitor. They're claiming they're the next leaders of innovation." Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the gut. It was a classic move, a knee-jerk play to incite fear and doubt. But this wasn't the time to falter. "They can have their narrative," he countered, feeling the pulse of determination swell in his chest. "We have ours, and ours is rooted in authenticity." They gathered around the screens, ready to dig in and respond to whatever was thrown at them. It was time for battle, and he could feel the combined energy uplift him. "Let us leverage this momentum. Together, we can rewrite the story. If they want transparency, let us give it to them in spades," Marcus said, his voice rising. "We are not just responding to fear. We're showcasing why this change matters." In that charged atmosphere, doubts faded. What they were doing wasn't just a business decision. It was a chance to shape the future, a future they were deeply committed to. But as the screen glowed in front of them, revealing a wave of accusations and criticisms, Marcus couldn't help but wonder. Could they withstand this fierce storm? Were they strong enough to resist the powerful currents of doubt? This was just the beginning, and the fight for their vision was far from over. How high would the stakes rise before everything was finally decided? The tension in the room swelled as Marcus watched the screens flashing with sharp headlines and damning clips of the competition's claims. It felt like a heavyweight bout. The air crackled with anxiety, but beneath it simmered a shared resolve. He knew they couldn't let fear govern their next moves. They had to strike back with clarity and strength. "All right, everyone, let us break down what we just heard," Marcus said, his tone shifting from trepidation to command. "This isn't just about responding to an attack. It's about bringing our story into the spotlight. What makes us who we are needs to shine brighter than their fears." He could see the wheels turning in their minds. Sarah was quick to whip out her notepad, scribbling furiously. "What if we lead with our track record? Highlight our successes, our commitment to diversity, our innovative solutions." Her voice was steady, each word punctuated by the intensity in her eyes. "Absolutely," Marcus exclaimed, feeling energized by her enthusiasm. "Let us contrast their claims with our real data, success stories, backup from clients who know our value. We can't dwell in negativity. We need to show the positive impact we've made." They dove into a flurry of brainstorming, voices overlapping, laughter cutting through the tension as fresh ideas sparked. But amid the noise, a small part of Marcus felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. This was just a business battle. It was personal, a reflection of his journey, the hurdles he had overcome, and now the distrust lurking behind the headlines. The buzzing energy that filled the room felt intoxicating, yet the nagging doubts still lingered. What if this was all for nothing? What if they lost everything? He shook his head, pushing the destructive thoughts aside. No, this was their moment to show the world what they were made of. Hours melted away as they crafted a response. The campaign they envisioned took shape, focusing not just on overcoming the current crisis, but also on forward momentum. They planned interviews, social media pushes, and direct messages to clients. The tentative confidence in the room began to solidify. Yes, the night wore on. Exhaustion threatened to pull them under. But every time Marcus glanced at his team, the determination reflected in their faces reminded him of why it was worth fighting for. They spitballed punchy taglines into slogans, trying to find something that would resonate deeply. Just as they settled down for what they believed would be a productive wrap-up, Marcus's phone chimed again with breaking news. The room stilled as he read the latest headlines, blood running cold. Breaking. Competitor S name, employees stage walkouts in protest against leadership and direction. The undeniable reality of the situation hit him. If times were tough for them, could that play to his advantage? An opportunity to connect with discontented consumers and employees alike. "This could be our moment," he said, voice firm. "Not only do we have to address our own crisis, but we might just need to reposition ourselves as a beacon for those looking for change." The energy shifted instantly, a rush of hope replacing the earlier fatigue. Marcus allowed himself a brief smile of understanding. This was a turning tide, not just for their company, but for the industry as a whole. But even amidst excitement, a looming question permeated his thoughts. Could they maintain momentum against a rival that was already trying to call the shots? Would their efforts be enough to turn public opinion and avoid the catastrophe looming around the corner? In their hearts, the answers hung, fragile yet potent. It was just the beginning, and Marcus felt it more than ever. They were in the throes of a fight that went beyond corporate strategy. It was a fight for identity and trust. How would the public respond to his vision when all the odds seemed stacked against them? Marcus felt a jolt of determination surge through him as he considered their next steps. The news of the competitor's employees staging walkouts couldn't be taken lightly. It was a rare moment, an opportunity to redefine their narrative. Leaning over the table, he looked into the eyes of his team. We need to act fast. This is bigger than us. We can offer something they've lost: trust, integrity, and vision for the future. Sarah raised her hand, her enthusiasm cutting through the air like a hot knife. Why not reach out directly to those employees? Show them we stand for what they believe in. It could give us grassroots support and bolster our credibility in the eyes of consumers. That's brilliant, Marcus responded, heart racing with excitement. Let us set up focus groups, video calls, anything it takes to show them we not only hear their struggles, but want to uplift them. We must be more than just a brand. We need to be a community. As the ideas flowed, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose wrapping around him. It wasn't just a reaction anymore. It was a movement. He could picture their message spreading like wildfire. Messaging that would resonate with those seeking change, those looking for leadership that genuinely cared. It was everything they had wanted to represent from the start. They divided into small teams, each tasked with specific goals, crafting messaging for their social media, drafting outreach letters to employees of the competitor, and sharing their own stories of resilience and commitment. The more they talked, the more their vision sharpened into focus. Hope pulsed through the air as they transformed uncertainty into a plan, each contribution weaving a courageous tapestry of action. Hours slipped away unnoticed. They worked tireless and fervent, home and work lives forgotten in the all-consuming fire of purpose. As worrisome doubts began to flicker, he found himself grounding in a simple truth. They had something real to offer. Each success story, each testimonial, was a reminder that they weren't alone in this fight. They had each other. Okay, we have a solid framework here, Marcus said, wiping the sweat from his brow as he called for a break. But we need to make a big splash if we want to gather momentum. This is our chance to shift perceptions. He glanced around the room and saw his team nodding, eyes lighting up as they contemplated the potential of their campaign. There was something electric about their shared excitement, like standing on the edge of another great leap, an adventurous plunge into uncharted waters. Just then, as Marcus took a sip of coffee, his phone buzzed ominously again, a notification that pulled him back down to earth. This one was different, an ominous video post from a respected industry leader denouncing their practices. The commentary felt personal, cutting, digging deep into their foundation. This could turn the tide against us, he said, concern etching his brow. We can't let fear of their reaction derail our momentum. We need an immediate plan to counter this. The room fell heavy again as they stared at each other, the flicker of uncertainty creeping back. Marcus realized just how quickly the tide could turn, how fragile their newfound hope really was. His heart raced as he spoke again, trying to ignite that fire within each of them. We need to respond quickly. No more hesitation. This can't just be a response, it must be a rallying cry. For a moment, Marcus felt that spark flicker weakly, but he couldn't let doubt well up again. They had worked too hard and come too far. We must both stand our ground and reach out. It's a balancing act we can't afford to miss. If we fall behind now, a hush fell over the group, the weight of his words settling in. They all knew what was at stake, and as the clock ticked down, that solitary question loomed larger than ever. Would they rise strong together, or would the shadows of doubt drag them back? As the doubt danced in the air, one thing was clear. They stood on the brink of a critical moment, an inflection point that could define not only their future, but also their values as a company. How far were they willing to go to protect their mission, and could their resolve withstand the pressure building outside? The answers were boundless, hanging in the balance, and they had to choose their next move carefully. The room was thick with tension, the kind that demanded action but stalled under the weight of uncertainty. Marcus could feel it hovering, pressing against their resolve. He paced the sleek, polished floor, forcing himself to think past the fear that threatened to choke the momentum they had built. We need a strategy, a message that will cut through the noise. What can we say that not only defends us, but also galvanizes our mission? Authenticity, Sarah interjected, her voice strong. We need to showcase what we truly stand for. This isn't just about us surviving. It's about affirming our commitment to the values that set us apart. Marcus nodded, appreciating her fire. Right? Let us draft an open letter. Something transparent and genuine. We can share our goals, explain where we stumbled, and affirm our path forward. But we must also own our mistakes. As ideas bounced around the room, the energy began to shift from detrimental concerns to constructive solutions. They weren't just reacting anymore. They were reclaiming their narrative. Marcus could see the shifting expressions, the way hope was slowly taking root, pushing back against the damp fog of anxiety. Each of us has had our moments in this company that drove us, Marcus said, raising his voice above the chatter. Let's hit on those stories. People need to feel the people behind a brand. We need their hearts, not just their eyes. A few nods followed. They expanded on that idea, each story more powerful than the last, laced with vulnerability and strength. The complexities of each journey, the obstacles faced and overcome, became the backbone of their response. It would make them real, human. Marcus scribbled down notes as a fire ignited in his heart. With every shared experience, every relatable story, they wove a tapestry of authenticity that would resonate far beyond their current struggles. If they could connect on that level, they might turn the outrage around them into a movement of understanding. Okay, we have a direction, he stated firmly as the enthusiasm buzzed in the air. Sarah, can you lead the draft on the letter? Everyone else, focus on creating supportive content for social media, interviews, whatever it takes to show our commitment. We need to release this within 24 hours. As the clock ticked on, his team burst into action. Marcus could almost hear the gears grinding in their heads, ideas coming to life, excitement mingling with urgency. Yet, despite the energy, doubts continued to creep in. Midway through the planning, Marcus's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, the familiar dread filling him anew. Another notification. More criticism circling in the digital ether. This one's not just another post, he announced, swallowing hard. It's an influential whistleblower video, out of nowhere, accusing us of unethical practices from within. This could get serious. The atmosphere shifted again, sharp and cold. Here they were, standing at the crossroads, watching the storm gather. Anxiety rippled through the room as his team's faces tightened, but Marcus pressed on. We're not backing down. This moment can become part of our story, an unwavering commitment to progress, a call for change. We can't let this overshadow everything we've fought for. But what if we're already losing? Someone asked, doubt creeping back into the air, uninvited yet persistent. Losing isn't an option, Marcus said, locking eyes with each member of the team. We rise, we forge ahead, or we get swallowed. We will stand together or fall apart. The world is watching, and now is our time to show who we are. As they nodded, though fear lingered, they were ready to rise to the challenge. Thinking of how they could stand tall in the shadow of the storm, Marcus could feel the heartbeat of the team anchoring him. But just as they settled into their roles, an unexpected knock echoed through the office. The door swung open to reveal a figure Marcus never thought he'd see the head of the competitor's walkout, stepping into their space, uncertain yet hopeful. Are you ready to hear us? Out? She asked, her voice steady but warm. With that question lingering in the air, Marcus knew they were at yet another pivotal moment, one that could change everything. What would happen if they opened their door to dialogue? Would they find common ground? Or would this spark yet another larger confrontation? As thoughts swirled, a new chapter was waiting to unfold, fraught with promise and uncertainty. The room took a collective breath as Marcus faced the unexpected visitor. Here stood a figure from the rival company in front of him, a representation of dissent turned into opportunity. Yes, Marcus replied, his heart pounding with both apprehension and excitement. We are more than ready. Let us talk. As they all gathered around the table, the tension began to ebb. This was a chance, a bridge between despair and hope. The representative spoke first, laying bare the concerns of employees who felt unheard and unrepresented. Each voice had a story, resonating with passion and a yearning for change. It melded with the mission Marcus had ignited within his own team. "What you're doing is admirable," she said, "but the fear of losing what little stability we have holds us back from joining forces." Her eyes met Marcus's, a flicker of understanding igniting between them. "We understand that fear," Marcus replied, his voice steady. "But what if standing together could create something much bigger? A shift not only for our companies, but for the entire industry?" Hope circulated once again as discussions turned into brainstorming collaboration, replacing competition, building upon shared values instead of highlighting disparities. In the following hours, ideas flowed across that marble table like they had never before. Plans took shape to unite their visions of diversity and strength. They began outlining joint initiatives for community outreach, mentoring programs, and equitable business practices that went beyond mere words. Marcus could feel the room warming, walls of division crumbling into a foundation for something great. "Our combined strengths could instigate real change," Marcus said, his voice gaining momentum. To see rigorous efforts across both companies wrapped in shared purpose began to feel achievable. He couldn't help but envision a narrative that portrayed not just a moment of failure, but a reawakening, a landmark moment that could inspire others to do the same. But as they fleshed out this collaboration, doubt still lurked in the corners of the room. Would their respective companies embrace this shift? Would the public believe their story? Marcus stood up, his heart racing as he untethered the remnants of his fear. "We have a responsibility to lead by example. We can't allow fear to dictate our choices. Instead, let us use this opportunity to show how powerful collaboration can be. This isn't just about us anymore. This is about breaking barriers." He watched as their ambitious plans unfolded. Excitement surged through both teams as they exchanged phone numbers, promising to keep each other informed and aligned. They were weaving a fabric of hope that extended beyond individual companies and into the community, an empowering message that resonated loudly. As the meeting drew to a close, Marcus felt the weight around him shift. Humph! The questioning eyes transformed into those of steadfast belief. What was once a looming catastrophe had morphed into a beacon of collaboration. "Let us commit today," he said, gripping the table as if it were the anchor in a storm, "to change not only for ourselves but for everyone who has felt voiceless. Let us make that new beginning shine with our combined efforts." And just like that, they sealed their pact, not just in words but in intentions and a shared mission. Days turned into nights as the momentum gained speed. News outlets caught wind of the alliance, dubbing it a revolutionary step in the corporate world. Social media buzzed with anticipation, people eager to witness two companies transforming adversity into actionable change. As the campaign launched with empowering calls to action, the initial noise of skepticism began to fade into the background, eclipsed by shouts of support and solidarity. People stood up, inspired and ready to follow this newfound narrative of unity and empowerment. Through shared storytelling and a mission rich in authenticity, Marcus watched as both companies reaped the rewards together. The industry shifted toward equity, garnering admiration and partnership, while the community rallied behind them, those very faces that Marcus had fought for when the card had been declined. As he stood at the conference table, now symbolically shared, he reflected on the incredible journey. The little boy from Chicago who watched his mother fight so hard had transformed into a man battling for his community. Tears of joy glimmered in his eyes as he thought about the countless lives that could now thrive, a generation empowered to push against systemic barriers. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling gratitude envelop him. "This is just the beginning," he whispered, eyes sparkling with determination. "Together, we will forge a future paved with hope." As the applause erupted around him, his heart was buoyed by the momentum of change, a ripple effect that transcended not just a single moment, but echoed through history. They had risen together in unity, a force for a brighter tomorrow. And just like that, in a world often defined by division, Marcus Taylor stood as a beacon of inspiration, reminding everyone that every small act of courage can spark a movement. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that might spark your own courage. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm and spread hope. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. Let us set the world ablaze with the power of change.